Hello, I'd like to take a few minutes to talk to you about Hard Light by Michael Crummey. This is a collection of short stories and poetry by Canadian and Newfoundland author Michael Crummey. They are historical, set around 100 years ago in Newfoundland. I think the best way to give you a taste of this collection is to read you a couple of selections. I have chosen a short story and a poem. This was originally published in 1998. My edition is a reprint from 2004. The short stories in this book are set up in sections. There's rust, water, earth, fire, and air. I'm going to read you a selection from earth. It's the first story and it's called Bread. So it begins. Bread. I was 20 years younger than my husband, his first wife dead in childbirth. I agreed to marry him because he was a good fisherman, because he had his own house, and he was willing to take in my mother and father when the time came. It was a practical decision, and he wasn't expecting more than that. Two people should never say the word love before they've eaten a sack of flour together, he told me. The night we married, I hiked my dress around my thighs and shut my eyes so tight I saw stars. Afterwards I went outside, and I was sick, throwing up over the fence. He came at the door behind me and put his hand to the small of my back. It happens your first time, he said. It'll get better. I got pregnant right away, and then he left for the Labrador. I dug the garden, watched my belly swell like a seed in water, baked bread, bottled baked apples for the winter store, cut the meadow grass for hay. After a month alone, I even started to miss him a little. The baby came early, a few weeks after my husband arrived home in September. We had the minister up to the house for the baptism. The next day, Angus McLean we named him, and we buried him in the graveyard in the burnt woods a week later. I remember he started crying at the table the morning of the funeral, and I held his face against my belly until he stopped, his head in my hands about the size of a child before it was born. I don't know why sharing a grief will make you love someone. I was pregnant again by November. I baked a loaf of bread and brought it to the table, still steaming from the oven. Set it on his plate whole and stood there looking at him. That's the last of that bag of flour, I told him. And he smiled at me, didn't say anything for a minute. I'll pick up another today, he said finally. And that's how we left it for a while. So I think that is just a beautiful little love story. The poem I've selected is the very last one in the book. It's called The Change Islands. I'm going to read it to you and then I'll flip the book around and show you the page because that's really important. The Change Islands. Earl Sons and Company, 1941 Limited. Branches: Fogo, Tilting, Joban's Arm, Bard Islands, Herring Neck, Change Islands. Makers of Sea Vita, Fancy Boneless Codfish, Terra Nova Codfish with Rice, Pre-Cooked Shredded Codfish, Happy Cat Food, and Lingonberry Sauce. The tiny, delectable lingonberry grows on the small evergreen shrub and is picked in its natural habitat, the windswept hills of Newfoundland and Scandinavia. Serve with poultry or pork. Earl Sons and Company, 1995, Limited, Branches. Makers of and 1941 versus 1995. In the 40s, the fishing industry in Newfoundland was alive and well. By the 90s, things had all but collapsed, and many of the communities had been relocated by the federal government. I really enjoyed this collection. It won't take you long to get through it. I actually read the entire thing on the bus on Friday. I had a very long bus ride. I would highly, highly recommend this collection. Hard Light by Michael Crummey. Read some CanLit.